So let's get back to the game. And the game is between, look at that, Queen H5. Queen H5 has been played. This is called the Patzer's opening, for those who don't know. Even on our YouTube channel, we actually have a video on this. Queen H5, the Patzer attack. That's what a lot of people call this. You just go for checkmate in 4 moves. So, trolling or being serious, I'm not sure. I'll let you guys decide, but it's a tricky line. We've actually covered it on the channel. That is the first time this event, Magnus Carlsen has been faced with a checkmate threat from the opening. Don't think you see that every day. And White has spent no time. I believe he's played this opening many times in the past. He seems very comfortable. He's playing the theoretical moves. This is still theory. And he's up 30 seconds. We'll see if it pays off. Once again, the first checkmate threat on Carlsen, right from the opening. Bishop c4. You know, that's sort of the pre-move, maybe the pre-move attack too. If your opponent pre-moves, they get mated. You know, it keeps people honest. In bullet, that might actually work. In bullet, you play e4, they play e5, you play bishop c4, they play, let's say, knight c6, and you play queen f3 or queen h5, and if they pre-move knight f6, they end up getting checkmated. So in bullet, I've seen people lose like that. But in blitz, against Magnus, not so easy. So easy. Hey, even if you lose, you're known as the guy who went for the 4-move checkmate against Magnus. By the way, Hikaru Nakamura's played this opening in a classical game as well, so it's not as obscure as it may seem. So Magnus has the 2 bishops, opposite side castling. He's looking to counterattack on the queen side. White, for his part, wants to play maybe h4, knight g3, and h5, and break through on the h file. d5. Ooh, I like this. b5, cb5, and d5. Things are really sharpening up here on board 1, but this is a very this is a very double-edged position. This is definitely a position you can go wrong with either color. Magnus is going to have to handle this with extreme care. And he's playing principle. He's just counterattacking. He has to, because otherwise White will grab the initiative very quickly. So after bc6, d4, knight a4 maybe? What's going on here? What is going on? So if you take here, d4, I'm not sure if d4 is the move, but maybe you take here. If you take here, knight takes e4 and a2 is hanging. That's the idea. Okay, so that's what White's thinking about. If you take on c6, I take on e4, and your knight is under attack, and you have to defend a2. And remember, with 2 bishops, open positions are what you want to strive for. So Magnus is feeling very confident that if he can have this sort of open position, open battle, that his bishops will come out ahead. Looking like a nice center over here. Looking like a nice center. Knight a4 maybe wants to jump to c5, wants to get rid of those bishops ASAP. If you take here, I play knight c5 and I want to win your bishop pair. World champion Carlsen. He's got a half-point lead on the field right now. So, still everything to play for. And another big game this round is Benjamin Bok against Hikaru Nakamura. Nakamura's up a minute. Bok's king is sort of exposed. But it is an endgame. Material's even. White even has the outside passed pawn. Anything could happen here. So we're keeping an eye out on that, because Benjamin Bok is in 2nd place. And he's one of the few guys left who could realistically surpass Magnus or catch up to him. Magnus here went for queen b5, queen takes b5. Rook c8, and he says that this endgame is good for black. That's what Magnus is saying, that this is a good endgame for black. What do you guys think? Rook d3. Black's got some really ugly double e-pawns, but the benefit of those double e-pawns is you can double on the f-file. This pawn is sort of soft. The pawns are on the wrong color for black in some ways, but the f-file might be weak, so I think Magnus is playing a double on the f-file and play bishop h6. Maybe b4 first, maybe b4, and a5. Okay, he does this. Carlsen is going to double on the f-file and keep these rooks passive on d3 and f1. We're going to see a technical display here. Whether it pays off, I'm not sure, but Magnus wants to go into this endgame. He's got his own weaknesses, though. That's something we haven't seen too much. He's got his own weaknesses over here. And c3, I mean, you can find yourself lost in some of these endgames. The material is even, and in some ways, black has a worse pawn structure. So Carlsen is going to have to come up with something here. Because this is an endgame he might even find himself on the white side of sometimes. Playing against this and that. But piling on some decent pressure here on the c-file. Still looking for a breakthrough. I agree with this decision. You don't want to trade. You need to defend d4. a4, okay. Anything can happen here. His opponent playing very well, even on the clock, and fighting hard. Pretty sure his opponent is a teenage French international master. Oof, e5. So now decisions have to be made. We got some real tension in the center. I don't think you can take on d4 because I have rook d7, and after bishop c3 I have b4, and you're going to lose a piece. So tactics are in favor of white in that line, but maybe you should just take here first. Take on a4 and then maybe try to go for something like that. I'm not sure. Some calculation. He's taking a bit too much time here, though. He took 20 seconds on that. He had to play a bit quicker. Can't get this low in time with some big decisions to be made. Now he's going for it because there's no b4. But after here, bishop c3, knight f4, rook d2. It's white up a pawn here. There's no b4. He calculated. He's like, I'm up a pawn, rook d2. Now, this doesn't mean it's a great pawn. This is weak, this is weak. King is vulnerable. Everything's pinned. But a pawn... Oh, knight here. So now knight e2. Knight e2. White offers a draw. White has now offered a draw up a pawn. He wants to see what Magnus does. I like that draw offer. Low on time. Try to confuse your opponent. Plus, you're up a pawn temporarily. If you're going to offer a draw, that was his last opportunity to do it. Up a pawn. So now we're playing an endgame. Even material. This is weak and this is weak. So who's going to arrive first? Maybe objectively this is a draw, but the players are low on time, so somebody might arrive first. Who's going to do so? I'm not sure. Magnus has a more active king, but the a-pawn also runs pretty quickly. I mean, king up, push. We might be headed to a draw here. If Magnus draws, Benjamin Bach has a realistic chance of catching up to world champion Magnus Carlsen and making this a very close race. So rook f5, push, zip on. Oh, knight e1. Knight e1. And you cannot stop this from queening. Even though white gets his own queen, Carlsen is going to have the queen first, and he's going to have the first chance to throw checks at his opponent. Magnus Carlsen once again emerges ahead in an endgame. He calculates that out beautifully. He's one move ahead, and that's all it takes to checkmate with a queen, rook, and a knight on the board. Queen check here. I assume this is winning. He's going to have to find it. If he does, check. Everything looks pretty good. Yeah, we have a checkmate approaching, guys. Queen f2, rook e1, queen c2 is mate, queen d3, queen c2. That's checkmate. Carlsen moves to 7.5 out of 8. a really, really nice sequence. Low on time, he's the one who found the most precise moves. And he was faster. Maybe maybe white had to consider sacrificing quickly for this pawn and then trying to win black's rook for his a pawn. Maybe rook g1 was the move. Maybe rook g1, I'm not sure. Some calculation, but with low time, Carlsen's instincts held up. And